I'm Jack Prentice, the regular summariser, joined today by Joel Granger in place of Limmy, who is attending a family issue. Joel, EU4 regular, second time in the commentary box, I believe. What are you looking for, having done a lot of league racing recently at Russia? What are you looking for from the drivers today?
Well, I think lack of penalties is going to be very, very key around here. And just qualifying position, as it is quite hard to overtake as a DRS train, does form quite easily. So, yeah.
You mentioned the DRS train. Obviously, the key overtaking area is into turn 2. It's the first real cornering event on the Sochi circuit, built in and around the Olympic parks of the 2014 Winter Olympics. Basically, that's been delayed, isn't it, to the autumn of 2014 to accommodate the Winter Olympics. In real life, has only been won by one constructor, and that is Mercedes, the car that we're riding on board with. That's R16 Montana, who, in familiar Mercedes style, certainly through 2020, is leading the Drivers' Championship by quite a long way. Obviously, mentioning the DRS train, it is really rather important to stay within a second ahead, because once you drop out of that, you can be very vulnerable to an attack from behind, can't you, Joel?
Yeah, it is, and with the pit strategy being quite a simple one-stop around here, you can't afford to lose much time because you're not going to make it up on strategy. So, yeah, I think Montana will be looking to take it to pole and dominate from there on.
Certainly, we're on board with Montana, actually just following his lap now. He's going to be the first driver to second lap, and he's probably one of the clear favourites he has been for most of the season. It's one of those really that it's not a fan's favourite, but you can get very fighty and very competitive. There's two real heavy braking zones, isn't there, going into obviously turn 2 and then down the back straight into the final corner. That complex is Montana goes on a 1:29.531 as an opening lap.
Yeah, it's a very solid banker lap.
Yes, no, it beats the pole time set by EU2 and EU3. I think Ray Snipes, who's come up from EU3, has, well, he's probably one of the first and only reserves to go 2 divisions up, isn't he?
Yeah, we had Ricky, I think it was in Hungary, in the Ferrari, but Ray Snipes was very, very strong on Monday night, so we'll see how he can carry on his form over to EU1.
Certainly from personal experience, he was a very difficult customer on on Monday night. He was certainly very, very quick. 2 reserves then, quite a lot of reserves tonight. We are a couple light. Yelps in the McLaren looks like he'll he is missing. He might be replaced by Alp. He has been missing for the last couple of races due to internet connection issues. We've got the Ferrari of Lopez, Matthias Fly, KD 1997 in the Racing Point. Just 2 American reserves, I think, as well as Warner in the AlphaTauri. We saw him last week. Another AlphaTauri driver we've lost is the driver that is Yorno. He's got back to EU2 and made a very successful return, didn't he, to EU2?
He did indeed, yeah. Getting on the podium.
Yep, certainly back into the swing of things. Talking about the start, Joel, here, as one little bit like he's validated. Talking about the start, it is, if you can make too good a start, can't you, here?
Yeah, you can. If you get yourself pinned up against one of the walls, you can find yourself in a very tricky situation going into that first braking zone.
Yeah, I can speak from experience. My start last night was too good. Got pinched in behind the 2 and ended up losing 4 or 5 places with that. Looking up and going past the commitment cone, no harm done there. So just looking now for a driver. I think it's Rowan I'm going to look for now. He's going to cross the line. He has already gone across the line in 4th place. Now it's looking like a McLaren, I think, he's on an in-lap, and I think there's an Alfa Romeo, not an AlphaTauri.
Yeah, that's Risa, former Tier 4 driver.
Yes, a man who's scaled the heights, hasn't he, in contest of speed. He's very much scaled the heights as he's into the final section now. A bit of an awkward section, isn't it? You sort of have to hope the corner, you have to sort of aim for the corner. Because it's such a low grip surface, 5th place in a 1 minute 30.1, I suspect he'll be going faster than that. But yeah, going back to that final section really, it is... awkward's the right word. You don't have a lot of grip there, and you just have to sort of chuck the car in and hope. Jacobs invalidated. Let's try and go back to that Alpha Tauri. I think is on another lap. Let me just see. So that's Warner certainly behind. He's certainly on a legal lap. Whether or not he completes it or not, I don't know. Coming into this final 2 corners, a man who he didn't catch the eye of Holland, but he certainly had a solid enough race, didn't he, Warner, for Alpha Tauri? And he goes again.
He did indeed.
That's another solid lap time.
P9.
And a 1 minute 30.9, Joe. Where do you think the cut-off is? I'm not going to say for pole position because it looks like Mercedes are going to get that sewn up. Who do you think is going to be the cut-off for 10th place, really? Because if you start from sort of 7th downwards to 10th, it's a difficult one, isn't it? Because you're going to be on older tyres and you could be vulnerable to attack from behind, couldn't you?
Yeah, we've seen the alternate strategy work well around various different tracks, and I don't think it's any different around Russia. So I think whoever sits in that P11 spot will be looking quite nice for the rest of the race.
Yeah, no, I think it's all going to be all about the start. You can lose so many places, can't you, into turn 2 if you have to go down the escape route. Because you lose so much momentum. Your tyres aren't in great nick either. And I think, yeah, especially if you are Jacobs invalidated again, so quite a few drivers really who are not setting their true representative laps. We're going to try and find Rage Snipes in the racing point. I'll be interested to see just how far he gets himself up the grid. This is quite the audition so far, isn't it?
Yeah, he put in a very good lap on Monday night. I think it was a 29.8 maybe. I'm not wrong, which was very impressive.
Yeah, certainly as one of the drivers in that tier, it made me wince. So, yeah, certainly now as he goes through, he needs to get a good exit out of there. It's so easy to run wide, and he does. It's a 1 minute 30.3.
P6, that is
P6.
Impressive form.
Yeah, the Polish Dutchman, who has been in fine fettle really this week, hasn't he?
He has indeed, yeah.
Certainly solid enough. On Monday night, as we keep mentioning, his pole time wouldn't have got him pole just in EU3, but I believe would have had him very close, if not on pole position, in EU2, which just shows that
EU2 was a 30 flat, so I think it would have been a couple of tenths clear.
This is a man at 1 really with the Sochi Autodrome going round the Russian Olympic. I think it's the Fisht Stadium, isn't it? They had the World Cup in 2018, a couple of matches, I think, up to the quarter-finals, as well as, correct me if I'm wrong, if you know much about the Russian Winter Olympics, I think they had figure skating around here, didn't they, as well?
Yeah, the Russian Winter Olympics isn't exactly my speciality.
No, me neither, it must be said. I don't remember much of it, to be honest, because we don't do terribly well. But, yeah, no, let's have a little look here at Fruitville. Again, it's a legal lap time. Going into the final complex, he's got Thomas behind him as well, so we can switch over to him. Fruitville now crossing the line. He goes third. The winner in Holland. Winner in Holland has laid down a bit of a challenge to Mercedes that they've just about overcome. And here comes Thomas now. So,
I think he's going to be starting off the line.
Yeah, building to about 203 miles an hour. You're looking to be hitting the brakes. Oh, it's not that fast. He's in 2, so he's in hot lap. Maybe he made a mistake on his previous lap time because he's got quite low. Yeah, he's backed out of it.
Yes.
P9 for Thomas. One of the contest of speed stalwarts, really, isn't he? Being the EU3 rep, and certainly they're having a handy season on his debut in EU1. Certainly having moved up in EU2 last year.
This track is quite different to most others, considering it's only a one-stop, therefore you don't really need to think about saving a fresh set of softs. So that you'll tend to see the drivers doing 3 runs in quali rather than the usual 2.
You will, yes. What do you think in terms of saving ERS? It's quite easy, isn't it, to save ERS here, isn't it? You've got two really long, straight, really heavy braking zones, and yet you've got, you know, you can use the ERS quite effectively, and if you're quite clever, you can really make up some places in the car.
Yeah, you can. With all the braking involved in Sector 2, and you only need to really use the ERS through the two straights, you tend to find you haven't really run out unless you've been excessively using it. So,
watching Conzo now over the line. He goes 13th at 1 minute 31.1. That's a banker lap. That will put him in the mix, but I would suspect he'll be looking for rather more than that. Looks like he was on the bubble. He's going a little bit tougher than on Monday, but I suspect he's got a little bit more left in his locker, hasn't he? And we're going to keep referring back to that if we can, just to give us a bit of a context. As Risa now, Ollie's invalidated, so he's going to make straight for the pit lane. The Danish driver in 11th. Let's say, scale the heights really of the EU, of the Conchester Speed European Championship, as we're given it started. The EU was created EU4. And he's gone very well, hasn't he, since he's come up? Certainly been one to watch, and certainly been in amongst it, hasn't he?
yeah, he has indeed. He was pretty dominant in EU4, you could say, and then reserved in EU1 at Monaco and won the race, which I think solidified his place as a Tier 1 driver.
Yeah, certainly it was a way to announce himself, wasn't it?
Definitely was, especially around a technical circuit like Monaco.
Yeah, certainly an easy one to get it wrong at. I'm looking for a driver who's setting a lap time, and every single one I find at the moment is either on an outlap or they've invalidated. The person I'm going to look at is 14th place Lopez now in the Ferrari, because he's halfway around his lap, and he's one of the few who...
As he invalidates.
It seems to say that, oh well, you know, I've done him a disservice there, hasn't he? And I think the worst thing is, he's not going to be able to make it round, is he? Well, he might, 3.5 minutes, but he'll need a damn quick turnaround time, because it'll be about 3 minutes
I think
by the time he gets
with
to the pit lane.
glitch Codemasters have kindly provided us, they do have about 40 seconds more or so than we can see. So I think he will.
Oh, that's good.
Make it back in and out.
That's handy. That's been making calls for both myself and Libby when we've been trying to call the commentating action. So, yeah, that's rather handy, Joel. As it's not the way I'd enter the kit right there. That's crossing the commitment zone. In the race, I think that might get penalised, but in qualifying, I think this may take a bit less of a dim view, might they now? We've got a Red Bull coming around. It's Calzo, but he's also coming into the pit lane. We're at the calm before the storm, aren't we, Joel?
Yeah, I think all the drivers will just be prepping, getting in the right space to push as hard as they can. Final lap.
So we're now looking at Matrix. He's on an outlap. I think he's going to be the one that is going to be the first to set a time, isn't he, on this last... He's one of the first ones to go. Fires himself out of a rather tricky apex and builds up for his lap time now. We're going to stay on board with the Flying Finn as he attempts to move himself into that top 10, or at least maintain 11th place, which we've said before is a prime place to start now, building up to probably about 203, 205 miles an hour before he hits the brakes. And just moved up to 206, a very difficult braking zone there. You've got to make sure you straight line that. You go and take the tightest line, because that's the shortest way around. You save a lot of tenths, up to probably 2/10 of a second if you get that right. And then you need to make sure you don't overcommit to the right hander.
Yeah. And whilst Russia has tightened up over the years in the corner exits, you can still chuck it in to all the corners during Sector 2.
It's a pretty smooth lap, isn't it? A very smooth lap. And it's certainly one where, you know, it's about rhythm, isn't it? As the back end didn't look particularly happy through there. And he's now on the way, building up to again over 200 miles an hour before it's a difficult braking zone to spot, isn't it now? Have to make sure you get this right.
Coming around the curve.
We hopefully
make sure you're braking in a straight line as to not lock up.
Yeah, gets off camber through here as well, which unsettles the back end. Your rear end is really bad through there. You clip the curb a little bit, it's off camber, it's going downhill, and you have to really be active on the steering wheel in order to get the car around. You have to really hustle it now. He crosses the line for a 1 minute 30.128. That puts him 9th for the time being, but a lot of drivers are now on their outlap. We're going to go with Bolin because Bolin has just started his final lap with 40 seconds to go, apparently. He's going to now go round the long left-hander before going, spotting your braking zone and making sure that you don't leave too much time on the table, because it's a corner where you can easily lose a lot of time if you get it wrong. Now he's 2/10 up in his first sector, that's a 32.5. which rather puts me to shame, I must admit. I'm not going to say what mine is. Wide entry there. Back end steps out a little bit, but he'll correct that. That's fine. Chucks it again through the left-hander. There was a man who didn't think he was racing tonight, so this is an added bonus. Turns right through the rather difficult and tricky turn. I think it's turn 10. I can't remember exactly now. Opens his DRS. What's his second sector like now? It's going to be there soon. And he's 3/10 of a second up. That would currently put him 3rd ahead of Rowan. Now, what further time can he gain around here? Again, it's a smooth enough exit through there into the rather difficult chicane that I was mentioning earlier. Very off camber. Looks smooth through there as he just gets a little bit of opposite lock, but that's not a problem. Turns into the two right-handed 90-degree corners. Where can he go here? That's Bolin across the line, and he goes 2nd. That's a 1 minute 29.2. It's an excellent final
very clean. Sector 3, yeah, it was indeed.
Excellent final sector. He gained 3/10, I believe.
Yeah.
Okay, we're now going to go to the Mercedes. That's Montana now coming round. What can he do to further solidify his position at the top? Currently pole by a 10th, under threat from his teammate Montana. And it is Montana that's going across the line, and he goes 2nd. That's my mistake. We're going to go to Vaporizer now.
He's invalidated his lap, so he won't be improving, but I think he just skipped a bullet there.
Yeah, no, it's Vaporizer that's gone pole and Montana that's gone 2nd. So when I can get me Mercedes in order, you don't get this with Sky F1, do you? When I can get me Mercedes in order, we'll tell you the order. That's Fruitful now going across the line as well, out of the RS and on to the 2nd row. That's 4th place for Fruitful, the winner in Holland. Got Red Bull now coming across the line. Got Red Bull coming across the line. I don't think I'm going to be getting there. It's Konzo who goes 12th, the Flying Scotsman. And now we go to the hard. That might be Jacob. It is
Reese's
Jacob.
had a spin.
Has he?
I think everyone bar Risa had invalidated, but then Risa spun.
Okay, well I've got Jacob, who does look like he's on a legal lap now, into the final knockings. And not the most track used there, but uses enough. Locks up into the final corner, and he goes 6th. It's an excellent lap. He gains 8/10. That shows how strong the track evolution here, because he's gained 8/10 to put himself on row 3. Drop Matrix back out of the top 10, and now we're going to go to, I think, the Force India, or the Racing Point.
Yeah, he's invalidated, so I think that's it. Qualifying over.
It's a 1 minute 29.9. I think that is it.
Right.
Certainly.
Very impressive lap.
Yeah, no, 1 minute 29.1.
Certainly a lot better than I could do.
Certainly better than me. I was happy with a 1 minute 30.6, I won't lie. And I think you're spot on, it is right. And when I can get the Mercedes right, it's Vaporizer in 2nd, on pole ahead of Montana. Bolin in the top 3 in his McLaren, so for us two as McLaren drivers, we'll try not to be too biased. Ahead of Fruitful in the Williams. 5th place, Rowan on his 2nd race. There's a bit of a stir in Holland, I think it's fair to say. And Jacob with a rather excellent 6th place for the Haas driver.
Yeah, and Rage Snipes coming up from tier 3, putting himself in P9. Very impressive.
Yes, very impressive, and especially as that's not his quickest lap time. So, to run through the rest of the grid, so from 7th place, Young Stinson in the Alfa Romeo, another Dutchman who's recently joined the tier. 8th place, Big Slater in the Haas, ahead of Rage Snipes and Risa to round out the top 10. Matrix and Thomas make up row 6, ahead of Konzo and Warner. Matthias Fly and KD, the American reserves, or the AM reserves, ahead of Calzo and the Red Bull Racing, who did not set a time.
Yeah, very impressive qualifying session. A lot of fast laps being thrown around.
1 second covers the top 10, Joel. That's how competitive it is. If you make a mistake here, you do pay a price, don't you?
do indeed, yeah. Penalties are going to play a massive game, especially with these Tier 1 guys who love to push the track and the car to its limits. They're going to be picking up a lot of penalties.
I was going to say, they do tend to pick up a few penalties, our EU1 drivers, which means working out the race is going to be right down to the final lap, I would suggest. Only 2 drivers last night, and I won't name one of them, Tichy and another McLaren driver, did not pick a penalty up. So, yes, track limits are going to be key, aren't they, Joel, as they often are in league racing.
Yeah, they are indeed. Keeping it clean can have a big impact, especially if a late safety car arises or a spin or something like that.
A late safety car, yeah, through the race around last night. So I think we had 4 laps from the end in EU2. And yeah, no, you're right in what you say, Joel. It is going to be one of those, if you do keep within the white lines, you're going to gain a lot more places, aren't you? Because especially with drivers who do like to push the limits, as we do have 10 seconds down until the formation lap starts. I wasn't keeping count, but I do believe that was 1 minute, so they're all very well behaved. Still a few to set their strategies, taking as long as possible. And why wouldn't you on the grid? It's a short interval, I think it's fair to say. And the vaporizer then sets off for the formation lap. So Russia, 7 races now, I believe, since the inception back in 2014. And it's a familiar look for Russia, isn't it? Mercedes on pole position, and then a bit of a sort out for the minor placings. Joel, how'd you see this going?
Well, with both Mercedes running 1-2, I can't really see, many drivers getting past either of them. With, I would guess, a lot of teamwork going on. But I'm sure Berlin and Fruit and maybe even Rome will push them to the limits. But I think my podium, I'm going to go for Montana, Berlin and Fruit.
You say Montana, Berlin and Fruit, you think Vaporizer may drop down? Well, I'm going to be difficult here and change what I was going to say, because that's what I was going to say. And I'm going for Montana to take the victory. I think Berlin may rise up to second, but I think Vaporizer, in sacrificing himself for the team, may still make the podium in his Barrichello role, as it looks increasingly like it's going to be for the Dutchman, who's had a rather strong but if inconsistent season. He's been very quick at times. He's never had the rub of the green. Just looking on... Sorry, you first, Joel.
Yeah, we all know how quick Vaporizer is, and if we can find some more consistency, then I'm sure he'll be up there fighting.
Okay, so looking, there's only 6 drivers to start on medium tyres, including both Red Bulls, Konzo and Calzo, KD 1997, both of Lopez, Matthias, Fly and Matrix, and the Alpha Tauri reserve that is Warner. Thomas in 12th place is starting on fresh soft, so he's going to be aggressive in the first opening knock-ins.
An interesting choice. Very interesting choice.
I don't blame him, to be honest, because he can go a little bit longer and he's going to have that pace at the start. So if he can really get going, and if he can really, if he gets a good start, he's well in the race and he's going to score good points, you would assume, barring disaster.
Track position's very important, so...
Let me just try and find now a bit of a better... I've got an absolutely useless angle, to be perfectly honest.
I've got a rubbish angle as well.
So it is eventually...
And we went for the glitch.
And it's lights out and away we go in Russia, and I can't tell you much about the start, but I can tell you that Vaporizer has got an awful start, and Bolin in the McLaren has got an absolutely magnificent start. Bolin from 3rd place on the grid is challenging for the lead, with Montana boxed in on the inside. It looks like it's going to be Vaporizer who just about hangs on, but Bolin in the McLaren has managed to get into 2nd place ahead of Montana and Fruitful. Jacobs risen as well up to 5th place. Rowan in the Renault's dropped to 6th. And that is about as horrible a start as it could have been for Montana. Got boxed in on the inside and couldn't really get any overtakes done, Joel.
Yeah, that throws the right spanner in the works for Mercedes teamwork, having a McLaren now splitting them in half. So I think Montana's going to be pushing as hard as he can to get past Bolin as soon as he can.
It does look like everybody's made it round. I'm just going to quickly try and make sure that I've got the changes in position. It does look like there's been a couple of big winners and a couple of big losers. Reese in 8th place has gained 2 places, but his teammate Young Stinson in the other Alfa Romeo has dropped down a couple of places. Bit of movement further back as well, as Calzo and Conzo appear to have swapped places. Calzo 13th, having started 17th, and Conzo 16th now, having started in 13th, Joel. Been a good start as well for Thomas, who has got himself into the race ahead of the medium runner of Matrix.
Yeah, I think he's got himself on the back of all the soft runners now, so he's not really losing too much time stuck behind medium runners, which is good for him.
I think it's going to be a bit of a DRS train over the next lap or so. I think Vaporwise there he is trying to break the toe already. Haven't seen that before in either of the European races this week, and he's got himself, if I could just check, a gap of 1 second already. So Bolin is going to have to work hard to get into that DRS zone. He's got a little bit more ERS, but honestly, that's an excellent first lap from Vaporizer after a tricky start.
Yeah, he was getting swallowed on the start, but he's made it work, and he's nearly pulled that second gap now, which is vital if he wants to retain the lead.
Into the pits comes Conzo. That might explain why he's dropped down. He's going to change the front wing at this early stage. I think he'll probably put hard tyres on and try and hope for a safety car towards the end, because there's no other way that certainly no way that mediums are getting to the end.
He's gone for the soft, which is a interesting choice. I don't know whether that's forgot to change it on the MFD, maybe.
Potentially, but what he could also be doing is simply hoping for a safety car early on whilst the cars are all together, and just hoping to catch up that way. The problem is, when you do knock your front wing, your race is ruined at an early stage, isn't it?
It is, yeah, especially around a track like Russia where the pit lane is so long. You just lose so much time on pitting, it's quite ridiculous.
Okay, so now just checking everybody. Yes, he is indeed on soft tyres. 30 seconds off the pace now. 1 second off the lead is Bolin, 1.1 seconds, and DRS comes in this lap, so he's going to have to get a bit of a shift on in order to fend off Montana and attack the Mercedes and Vaporizer. Now these two have gone wheel to wheel a couple of times, Bolin and Montana, and I think this is going to get quite spicy if Bolin can't get back in that DRS zone, Joel.
Yeah, I think they both have feel they're right to be up in those positions, and they won't want to let the other one past easily, so it's going to get quite spicy.
No, certainly Montana's going to try and get ahead, because this is one of the main championship rivals. He's got Fruitful behind as well, always lurking, and I think as well, if you look, there's no one who is behind the next car up by a second until we get to Lopez in 16th, and already a penalty for Rowan. That only took a lap and a half, 2 laps. So really, you're right in what you say about earlier. That penalty's been very, very key in Russia, and that's going to play out already.
Yeah, it's really not what you want to be gaining loads of penalties around here.
And you're an expert, really, aren't you, Joel, in staying within the white lines? It's kind of how you build your races on. So you'll be looking at this thinking, yes, now, if only I was in here.
Yeah, I would like to think I'm good at keeping it between the white lines. However, I think if I was in EU1, I'd be about half a lap behind everyone anyway, so I don't really think penalties would make a difference.
Well, as long as you stay on the lead lap, eh? 1.2 seconds now behind for Bolin, who's going to be under attack now from the Swiss juggernaut, really, that is Montana now, as he finds himself out of the final corner and lines himself up, or attempts to line himself up. 8 attempts behind, I don't think he's going to manage it now, but he's kept his ERS very much in check, so I don't suspect it will be too long before the Swiss driver is coming down his inside and trying to move around the outside now. Through this corner, you're not really going to get anywhere now until the back straight, so it's going to be about settling in. He's only half a second behind.
I think the time that you lose in sector 3 in the dirty air is just sort of recovered on that straight, and I think the second straight is probably where we're going to see the most moves.
Well, it's an interesting braking zone, isn't it, in that second DRS zone, because you're turning left, but you can angle it in such a way that it's there for a late move if you do want to keep your car straight and just sort it all out when you get to the apex. Certainly, I think you're right. I think we might well see more action and more move into that second DRS zone, especially As if you do get it right, you can pull a bit of a gap in that final sector before trying to make good your escape down the main straight.
Yeah, and if you find yourself on the side between the wall and another car going through that left-hand curve, you can get yourself the outside, which then turns into the inside.
So just to go through a little bit more, Reese is now up to 7th place ahead of Stinson. So I think someone's hit strike. I think it's Big Slater who's been in the wars a little bit, because he was 7th earlier on and he's dropped to 10th now. He's got a fresh fitted tyre Thomas behind, who's 7/10th, and even worse news for the combative Irishman in 10th place is that Thomas doesn't have anything to worry about from behind, because Matrix has dropped 2.5 seconds back and has his own little train going.
Yeah, he does. I think that's just going to... We're not going to really see much of the medium runners until the final stint of the race, when they start trying to fight their way back through the pack.
The time delta
swings it around the outside.
Yes, he's got Matrix, an excellent move. We didn't see it, but it still looks like it's being sorted out. It's an excellent move. If he has managed to land it through, yes he has. And Stinson's another man to get into the penalty. The steward's book. That's 4 drivers now already with 3-second penalties. So they're going to be very busy, aren't they, the stewards?
Yeah.
The game stewards, and I suspect our stewards in contest of speed, who, let's not forget, give up their free time, so we must pay tribute to those. And we must pay tribute as well to Tebow for his TAS system, because his TAS system is telling me that Vaporizer is the fastest man on the track now by 0.6 of a second from his best lap on a 1:33.696 job.
Yeah, Vaporizer maps line. Also, Tebow's wonderful TAS system has informed me that Bolin is only 1 warning away from getting a 3-second time penalty. So that could be interesting.
Yeah, that would really shoot the fox, wouldn't it? As we now have to go back a bit to Montana, because I think he's closer than he's been for some time. He is closer than he's been for some time, and he's now ahead, and a position higher up than he's been for some time now. The Mercedes Championship leader now is up into 2nd place, and I think he's going to set about Vaporizer in hot pursuit.
Yeah, I think he's going to try and look to push, tuck into Vaporizer's DRS and try and use that to pull away from Bolin.
He is, but he's only got 1.4 seconds to play with, so I don't know necessarily that it's a bad idea for Bolin. If he can just hang on to Montana, as long as Vaporizer isn't in a position to let him go, I think he'll be okay. And then obviously with the undercut, which you could potentially use, bearing in mind Mercedes are probably going to stop the leader before they stop 2nd place. All is not lost, but certainly it's a bit of a blow at this early stage now. We're a quarter of the way through the race already nearly.
Yeah, young Stinson has got past his teammate Risa, and TAS is telling me that Risa has picked up some wind damage, so I wonder maybe that could be a teammate collision.
Potentially. They'll certainly have a bit of a sort out if that's the case. He's also got 3 seconds for the penalties, as has Rowan in the Renault. Just close back to the economy. Rowan versus Jacob, because Reese is pitting. I would suggest though Reese is going to go on to medium tyres and just try and elongate that last stint. I'd be very surprised if they went on hard tyres at this stage now.
Yeah, mediums can easily do the end of the race from here, so...
Jacob now goes around the outside before he gets the door shut in his face, and unlike a lot of drivers, manages to just regroup and go around the outside rather than go down the escape road. He's going to attempt it down the inside. It's a move, and it's well held off at the moment by Rowan, who repels well, but doesn't repel for very long, because Jacob now is up the inside into the following corner, and he sneaks through on the inside, and that was a move well in the planning from Jacob in the Haas, who's going rather nicely, thank you very much.
Yeah, that was a very patient, planned out move as he took advantage of Rowan's lock-up.
Yeah, Rowan's struggling on the brakes, and he's paid the price. Jacob's just quietly been there, hasn't he? He's 2 seconds now away from Fruitful, and if the cars ahead start batting, you might be able to catch them up. He's only been able to get half a second though on Rowan before he gets another DRS, and that's the only problem with 2 DRS zones, is that you can never really build a gap.
Yeah, Yeah, Russia's very, very reliant on its DRS for any sort of overtaking. It's quite a tight, tricky track.
Certainly is, Joel, and I think Rowan might be in more strife because Stinson's now is in on the party, isn't he? But we're going to have to keep with this because I think this is not done yet. Now, Rowan 4/10 off. If he can get a bit of a slingshot out of here, it's not a bad exit, I tell you that now. He's starting to gain already, gaining. Using all of his overtake though, he's lost a lot.
Yeah,
Jacob's got a little bit more in reserve, but I don't think that's going to stop him, to be honest, because Rowan, round the outside, he's going to have a go. And he fails, he doesn't quite get close enough. But Jacob's gone wide on the exit now, and Rowan's going to have another go down the... No, not quite. I think the half stride was just about held that off.
The tyres quite have the grip to take that super tight inside line anymore. So.
No, the back end at this point will be getting a bit floaty, I think is the technical term. I think it's going to be one of those that you're going to not quite know where the rear end is, and it's going to be something that you're not quite able to trust in the way that you were previously. I said that Montana was going to go to try and catch up to Vaporize, and it hasn't really materialised, has it, Joel? He's dropped half a second since he passed Bowling a couple of laps previous.
Yeah, Vaporize is absolutely flying, and I think Montana's just struggling to pull away from Bowling. I think in the next few laps we're going to start seeing people enter the pits if they're ambitious to try and go for an undercut.
I think you'd be taking a risk now, unless it's forced by necessity, which is what Risa was. I think you'd be taking a bit of a risk now to do it because the tyres have struggled towards the end. And I think if the driver can stay out, because the mediums do take a little while to warm up, you've got to make sure that it is really at that right crossover point. And for some drivers it might well be, because drivers do obviously look after their tyres at different rates, as well you know, Joel. I don't know whether it's the right time yet. I'd wait probably a lap or so, which is what, fortunately, a lot of these EU1 drivers tend to agree with me.
Yeah, I think the default pit strategy, starting on the soft round here, is to pit lap 10. So if you pit this lap on lap 9, as the softs looks like they're about around 45% worn. I think if you're someone like Jacob, who's got, you know, quite a lot of pressure from behind, covering off the undercut, could be quite a valuable thing.
I agree with you. I think if the tyres have gone, then it's the right time. But you've got to make sure that you've got traffic now. The field has spread out somewhat. The gaps are starting to appear. I think they're driving around in clusters, aren't they? Both sides of the side. And normally, 3 cars and then a bit of a gap, isn't there?
Just looking at the task, KD has managed to pick up 9 seconds of penalties in 9 laps, which I think is quite impressive.
It's nice, isn't it? You know, if you average a second a lap in terms of penalties, I find it oddly satisfying, but that might well be a me problem, as Montana has decided to go with your advice, and he's decided to pit for the undercut now.
Yeah, with the
potential as well, isn't it?
With the Mercedes leading 1-2, I think Vaporize is going to get the premium pit strategy, so I think Montana's decided he wants to go earlier than later.
Well, I don't think he'll gain a second. I think he'll probably gain between half a second and 3/4 of a second, as tends to happen. I think that's probably where it's going. Thomas has started to pit rather early.
Yeah, especially considering his fresh softs probably weren't as worn as anyone else's.
Meanwhile, here comes... Oh, there's contact. That was clumsy. Young Stinson and Jacob come together in the... around the long left-hander. They were both going for the same part of track. Had just got there to see that Stinson and Jacob, one car was trying to keep straight, one was trying to widen the corner, and there was always going to be an incident there. Stinson survives, but Jacob spins into the wall and now has, I would suggest, significant front wing damage. He's back to 8th place, but he's lost a lot of time, Joel.
Yeah, he's not going to be able to stay out at all on those. On that sort of wing damage, it's absolutely destroyed.
Yeah, no, let me go to him now to try and find... Oh, yeah, no, he's under attack now from Calzo, and that front wing is gone, isn't it? That's entirety of the front left. I feel so sorry for him because he's having his best race for a long time. He's driving really well, and to my eyes, and I'm not going to pass judgment too much, but to my eyes it looked a bit clumsy. Vaporizer, meanwhile, back to the lead. Pitts from the lead. He's 2 seconds clear of Bolin, who's also in. And I'm going to go to Montana, who's 14th, with a nice gap in front of him. I'm going to go to Montana.
Yeah, I think for
Jacob,
it could have been worse, considering he's probably going to pit this lap anyway. I don't think he'll lose, too much time. Say if it had happened on, lap 3 or something, whereas then he would have lost a lot of time.
I would suggest he'll probably drop out the points though. I'd suggest it probably, when it all shakes out, will be between possibly either P10 or P11. And speaking of a position change, Montana appears to have undercut Vaporizer. He's just got past him. That was a really good, that was a flying out lap really. And Vaporizer's been mugged. So Montana now, as he seems to do at the moment, finds a way to get himself into the lead. And now we'll need to find a way to control the race against the advances of a much quicker teammate so far this session. Obviously, we don't know whether Montana's been saving anything, but Joel, give us your thoughts on that.
Mercedes have dictated this race incredibly well. The fact that they've managed to pit both of them and come out in each other's DRS, dropping Bolin 1.6 seconds behind. That's very impressive, but Bolin won't be happy. I'm sure he'll be pushing to try and get back within that 1 second, but I don't know how easy he will find it.
I agree with you. I don't know how easy he's going to find it, but it remains to be seen. There's still a long, long way to go, and looking at this, a lot of penalties to be had, doesn't there? I mean, there's at least half of the grid already got penalties. And I don't suspect that will. I don't expect that will stay the same. I think there might be more coming. Now I'm on board with Warner. Give a couple of other guys a bit of airtime because Warner and KD not only got their own battle, but they've got the lead battle behind as well. Look at this. You've got Warner and KD battling for P4 on the track. Montana behind and Vaporizer.
Warner goes for the move.
Oh, that was brutal. And KD gets another penalty.
Ooh.
Could have gone down the escape route. That's not the way to rejoin either. That's a bit clumsy from the US reserve, but they all get through. Now, not only have they got this to deal with, you've got Montana to deal with. He doesn't normally take kindness to this. What's Warner doing? Is he pulling out of the way?
Yeah, I think he is, which is unfortunate. He's now going to lose a lot of time for KD, but
he's going to lose a lot more time now because he's just backed it in the wall. So yeah, that's not the best conceived plan from the AlphaTauri driver, who to that point is having a fairly decent race. KD now has got the charging bulls behind, doesn't he, in the Montana and Vaporizer, and he's got Bolin, who's going to catch the pair of them as it looks like now. Using a bit of ERS, but I don't think he's going to get involved here as Montana and Vaporizer go past. And where are they going to sort this out? I don't know who's to the inside, but Vaporizer, I think, has mugged Montana. Goodness me, the Swiss driver won't be happy with that at all. But Vaporizer, very opportunistic there from the Dutchman.
Yeah, impressive stuff. I don't think Montana will be particularly happy sitting behind KD, especially as he may have been lagging around, obviously connecting from America. But I mean, there's not anything Montana can do. He's just got to lay his head down and try and get Vaporizer back.
Well, he's normally not an easy driver to fire up. I think that might fire him up a little bit more now. Half a second, 3/4 of a second between him and Vaporizer. He's making good his escape. Bolin now coming down the inside of KD. He can't do it. KD is obviously with DRS, proving to be a bit of a stumbling block for the Dutch McLaren driver. He's going to try and go, I think, around the outside. Yes, he is. And let's see if they sort this out a bit better than him in the AlphaTauri did. Bolin goes down the inside, a block pass, and also a penalty too. He did seem to cut the track there, and it's a good measure. Fruitful comes through too. And KD's minute in the spotlight really comes to a shuddering halt. Now I'm going to go back to the
Vaporizer, 3 seconds. That's going to switch things up massively, especially considering Montana's only on 1 warning.
Montana's only got 1 warning now. He will know. The way that Formula 1 updated this, I think it was a couple of days ago now, means that drivers are now automatically aware of what the penalty situation is for those around them. They won't know the warnings, how many warnings they've got, but they know how many penalties they've got.
Yeah, they will. We haven't really mentioned Fruitful much here, but he is just sitting slightly behind Bowley, waiting to pick up the pieces, and at the moment I think he's net P2, which is quite spicy.
It's keeps him certainly in the hunt. He's made a habit of doing this, isn't he, Fruitful? He's certainly a man to sneak in unnoticed until the end. Remembering Zandvoort last week, he wasn't always towards the sharp end after starting 13th. Made his way through, and then when it really mattered, got the job done, didn't he, on Rowan, who has had a bit of a worse race now, it must be said. Let's check the stops now to see where we are with this. Got not really an awful lot happens. A few DRS change stops. Calzo, Matrix and KD are the three drivers who have not stopped. So the Renault driver Rowan has lost a lot of time, isn't he? I tell you what though, Joel, if you look at Risa, he's had rather a good recovery. Now I know that he's on 3 lap older tyres than Thomas and 4 lap older tyres than both Stinson and Snipes. But he's brought himself back into play when drivers such as Calzo, Matrix and KD pitch. So it's not all over for the Alfa Romeo. And
I mean, Risa can definitely take those tyres to the end. But it'll be interesting to see how well they fare come the end of the race.
You mentioned Jacob. It's bad news, he's dropped back to 15th after running as high as 5th. I think Matrix has decided he's had enough of those medium tyres, and he pits, freeing the group behind him that included Vaporizer, Montana, Bolin and Fruitful now. Car separated by 3 seconds thereabouts. So let me just see, we're on the back of this with Fruitful, but a bit of a gap as well to Stinson behind. Stinson, who's driving a rather lonely race at the moment.
Yeah, he has. He's just been getting some solid positions, past Risa, then past Jacob, and he could find himself in the fight for a top 5 here.
He could well indeed, couldn't he? Especially when Calzo brings himself into the pits. He'll be in a very useful position for Alfa Romeo.
Also, we haven't mentioned him much during this race, but Rage Snipes, the EU3 reserve, up in a net P6 once Calzo pits. Very impressive.
P6 for Rage Snipes. It's been a very good week, hasn't it, for the Polish-Dutch driver, who was, he's been excellent, certainly excellent on Monday night, and I've no doubt he would have done very, very well in EU2 last night had he been able to take part in that. 7th place though is very, very strong. I think it's probably the best performance of any of the Racing Point pool of drivers so far this week, and I include his own victory on Monday.
Yeah, that was a very dominant performance from him on Monday. In here, in Tier 1, proving his pure speed. And I think he might be more delighted with that.
Well, he might well be delighted with that, but I think Thomas has got something to say. He's right behind Snipes, and so is Risa. Snipes, though, doesn't have a penalty, but he has got a queue of cars behind him.
The yellow flag.
Yeah, it looks like somebody's gone off and carried on. Doesn't look like there's anything to worry about.
Matrix, maybe?
Potentially, but it doesn't look like there's been anything to worry about. As Calzo finally does come into the pits, and he's probably going to end up 13th, I think. No, he's not. He's just coming out now. He's going to be ahead of Matrix, so he's 11th. On soft tyres, he's going to be a threat, isn't he?
Yeah, especially to the likes of Roan and Slater. But I think with that penalty, I might struggle to challenge particularly high up.
Possibly, but the delta was up to 2 seconds last week as Lopez Matthias puts in the fastest lap time all the way back in 15th. It's not going to count for a lot, but it's going to go in his personal achievement book, isn't it? As Thomas there going wide, but not quite as wide as
Swaners. That's in the pit lane.
That's in the pit lane. It's not been his race really since he got out of the way of the faster cars for position, it must be said. And Judy biffed himself into the wall as I think Risa might be lining Thomas up here. 3 tenths of a second. Snipes now keeping 3 drivers, 2 divisions above, at bay and holding on rather well, Joel.
Yeah, a very impressive drive so far from him, but I think Thomas and Risa are trying to possibly put him in his place a little bit.
Yeah, don't mean to cut across. We're going to go to the lead battle, because speaking of putting in his place, Montana is attacking Vaporizer. He's driving alongside Vaporizer, and he's now driving ahead of Vaporizer into the braking zone. That seems rather easy. I don't think Vaporizer put up much of a fight, but Montana now needs to get away and needs to get going, really, because Fruitful has 2 cars now between him and Montana, and this is really the championship battle, isn't it?
Yeah, I wonder if maybe Vaporizer is just playing the team game and realising that with his penalties it might be a bit of a struggle for him to win this race, and maybe just wants to play rear gunner and back up Montana to the victory.
So you think it's a bit of team riding there as retires, but I don't know where.
Pit lane as well.
So
yeah, it's not been a great night for the AM guys, it has to be said.
No, our reserves from over the pond have found it rather difficult in Russia, and the other driver is KD 1997, currently sat in P14, staying onto the coattails of the main group, but 3 seconds behind anybody. I don't think he's going to make much of an impact from there, sadly. Meanwhile, look at this race night, it's P6, isn't it? P6 Thomas P7, Rita P8 and Slater P9. Calzone, meanwhile, is probably the man to watch, because he is only 8/10 of a second, or he was at the time of saying, 8/10 of a second behind Rowan on fresher tyres, much quicker tyres. I think there's these yellow flags are out because of Lopez's Eric Ferrari giving a bit of problems. That's another glitch that we must thank Codemasters for. Calzo, meanwhile, on the back of Rowan, he's going alongside, and it's another DRS assisted move into turn 2, and the Renault hasn't really got an answer for the Flying Scotsman, who's got no doubt plenty of pace and enough time to make up positions all the way, so you have to say Snipes in P6. So I think this Red Bull could be on a bit of a charge, Joel, don't you?
Indeed, yeah, I think Rowan might just try sticking that DRS, catch up to that train that Rage Snipes is heading, and it might turn into quite a big train.
Certainly that might be my tactic. If it was me, I would maybe not even stick with him, because on medium flow it's going to be very difficult through the second sector. But you can hope that the Red Bull ahead causes a bit of chaos. If he's got 2 or 3 cars to overtake, he's going to have to be a bit more desperate on the brakes, isn't he?
Indeed, yeah. As the main top 4 have really pulled away from Stinson now, he's 8.5 seconds behind, just running his own race, almost Max Verstappen-esque, but just not P3.
Yeah, he's 8 seconds back, isn't he? But he's 5 seconds clear of where he needs to be, so he's got a lovely little window, isn't he? I'll just check his penalties to make certain a couple of things, because I can see he's got a penalty, whereas Rage Snipe, sorry, not has slipping the tongue there, has got no penalties at all. So let me just check this and see if I can find out what the warnings are for him.
He's got 5 warnings compared to Rage Snipes' 2. So if he gets another track limits warning, he will be on 6 seconds.
But by the same token,
ideal.
Rage Snipes is on the bubble as well, isn't he?
Yeah, Rage Snipes can not get another penalty, keep this gap, and then young Stinson gets a penalty. Rage Snipes will be even further up the field. As Berlin gets another penalty, that might just completely destroy the chances of his podium now, to be honest. Yeah.
He'll be firmly in 4th place, because Fruitful's yet to pick up 1 penalty. I think at least 2 for Bolin.
Yeah, that's 6 seconds, yeah. And Fruit's only on 1 warning, so he's still got a couple of validations to play with.
He certainly does. We've got Thomas now. But he's not quite close enough. And another penalty for the other Force India of KD 1997. I don't think it's going to affect his race too much, because he's sat 14th. But
no, he has wrapped up 15 seconds now.
Okay, so
be,
15th, you know, he might be in jeopardy from the car behind, mightn't he? Race starts, meanwhile, has 1, 2, 3, 4 cars in this DRS train. Rowan only 2 seconds back primed and ready. If there's any issues, then we'll go to Calvo, who's got a bit more grip, and he's looking a bit more racy, coming onto the back of Big Slater. Don't think he's going to quite get there.
No. I think this is the point where Calzo might get a little bit frustrated because I think he might struggle to pass unless, I mean, this is very ambitious. That is a very impressive move from Calzo.
Yeah, I was trying to find it there quickly. I managed to overshoot, but I did catch the last part of that. And that's, yes, excellent, isn't it, from the Red Bull? He's just got a lot more grip.
Stinson has just got another time penalty, which promotes Rage Snipes.
8/10 of a second to find over the next 7 laps. And he's not really looked like doing it, to be honest. It's fluctuated between 4.8 and 5.2 seconds for a long, long time now. I'm going to go back to Calzo because I think he might be the man to watch here now. 3/10 behind Risa. Do you think he's going to spend some of those engine battery tokens? No, is the answer. And he very aggressive on the brakes there. Thing is though, when he's got so much grip, he can, as long as he executes it properly, he can find overtakes anywhere. And
yeah,
I've got nightmares of the Red Bull going on the attack in the back and go up on Monday night, so he's holding me breath a little bit there. But yeah, if he can set this up now out of the final corner and make Risa panic, I think he'll be onto something. So, meanwhile, it's very much line of stern out front. Montana's not going to break away. Vaporize is keeping Bolin at bay.
Yeah, it's very much what we expected, just DRS strain and the odd move here and there, but not really much going on.
Drivers going to have to get a bit ambitious, aren't they? And speaking of ambitious, I think Reese is planning a move on the inside. Well, that's... Oh, my goodness me. I think he's... So what's happened there is Reese is just simply... So, I'll explain this to Joel and the viewers. He's gone too deep on the brakes as Konzo retires. Konzo retires on the brakes. He's gone far too deep on the brakes, lost a lot of front wing and made contact with Thomas. Thomas who's been put into the wall, and I think Thomas has got damage too. Let me just check this. So he's got 3 seconds of penalties. Let me just see, because I can't see. Yeah, Thomas has got huge damage, as is Risa. I think that might be going to the stewards. Good news if you're Rowan and Matrix. They're going to now be the beneficiaries from this. But that's a cruel way for Thomas to lose his what was going to be probably P5 or P6 potentially, depending on penalties or red. And,
that is also very big for Calza, as that has promoted him right up into Rage Snipes, who should be an easy picking given the tyre situation. So.
Second clear, so he's going to have to wait. Yeah, I don't know what your thoughts on that. I don't know how much of that you saw, Joel, but...
I just saw Thomas in the wall. That's all I saw.
Ah, right. I can't even ask you to apportion blame there. So, yeah, to me, with the summarisers hat on, it just looks like Risa got a bit too greedy on the brakes, and there's a car in the way, and then there's a car in the way. Especially when you're on a big stop like that, it's just going to be problems. Interested to get your comments in on this, and I'll take a look and read through a few whilst we get Joel to summarise what's going on up front, because it's still a DRS train, isn't it? Montana's still holding a half-second gap, and Vaporizer is still astern behind.
As I said, playing the team game, just keeping it how it is. He knows that he's got a penalty and Montana doesn't, so Montana's going to win by at least 3 seconds if it stays like this.
It's about controlling the race, isn't it? But you fancy that somebody, somewhere, is going to try and mount an attack, aren't they?
You would, yeah. I would guess maybe the person to watch would be Calzo, if he's gained a few tenths on Rage Snipes and will be getting the DRS. Turn 2.
Yes, no, I've just had it confirmed by Dracer that yeah, he's totally missed his breaking point, and they're in the same party. Risa and Dracer, who was due to be driving for Haas before Jacob quickly reappeared. Yeah, no, I would not disagree with that.
Yeah, I saw Risa get a 3-second time penalty just before the incident happened, as Calzo is going to go down the inside of Rage Snipes, and I think Rage Snipes isn't really going to challenge that, is it?
Yeah, not normal.
He's pretty happy just to sit here.
Yeah, not usual for Rage Snipes. He normally does like to get his elbows out and start fighting. But if Calzo can get up the road and challenge Stinson, then it works, doesn't it? Because Rage Snipes is starting to catch Stinson anyway. Then I think that it benefits him, doesn't it? If Calzo can get ahead and disturb Stinson, whose pace is somewhat gone on these medium tires.
If Rage Snipes can stick within 6 seconds of Stinson and Calzo, he will be jumping them both. However,
very close there. Sorry to cut across you, Joel. Bolin is just going down the inside, going into the final section with the DRS, and I don't think he's finished. He's gone down the inside, and there's contact there. And that might allow Fruitful to get in on the act. Fruitful's got a better exit than Bolin. Bolin, who has been attacking Vaporizer throughout this lap. Vaporizer holds firm at the moment, and he's going to get another shot of DRS to hopefully assist in defence going into turn 2.
Yeah, I think Bolin understands that now he really does need to push, otherwise he's going to get jumped by Fruitful. However, I think Fruitful understands the situation and just knows that he needs to stick in within 3 seconds of Vaporizer and Bolin, and that P2 is all his.
For Bolin, it's 6 seconds, isn't it? It's Bolin now trying all sorts. There's contact there. Down the inside he goes, and he pulls in at the last moment. And that was a warning shot there from the McLaren. There's been a couple of those. At some point, he's got a bare teeth, isn't he, Bolin?
Yeah, he did very well to not obtain any damage there. I think he just pulled out of the brakes.
Yes, he just let off in the end, didn't he? Whilst that was going on, Matrix has made his way back up into the points-paying positions. He's 9th now. He's just past Rowan in the Renault, and crucially, doesn't have any penalties. So he, Big Slater and Snipes are pretty safe in the points-paying positions, aren't they?
Yeah, they are. And I think that little train is just.
Oh, here we go. As Fruitful now goes down the inside and does to Bolin. What Bolin tried to do to Vaporizer. He has disconnected, and that might be what assisted Fruitful in getting through. Now, Bolin's disconnected, and that's going to drop him back into the clutches of Stinson, who does have penalties, and Calzo, who's got penalties. Calzo, who's 3.5 seconds behind Stinson, and going very, very quickly. Let's try and get an invite into Bolin if you can, Joel.
Yeah,
try and see if we can get him to rejoin with 3 laps to go.
That's really not ideal for Bolin. You would not have wanted that. That's just allowed Fruitful and Vaporizer to storm away.
And meanwhile, Rowan has got back ahead of Matrix in the fight for 9th and 10th place. KD, meanwhile, the US reserve we said had not been driving, had not been in the conversation for points. He's now 11th. If he can catch up to this battle, he's on potentially for a points-paying position. Although he does have a lot of penalties, so he might need a bit of a favour.
He's got 15 seconds of penalties. He's 1-1 away from 18 seconds. Matrix has no penalties on the run.
It's a tough ask, I admit.
Yeah, I can't really see it happening. If he does, then I will be. Oh well, there's the 18 seconds.
Okay,
So
that rather curtails it, doesn't it, Joel? That rather curtails it
extremely
somewhat.
surprised.
Meanwhile, we've got Montana and Fruitful now forming part of the top 3 with Vaporizer in the middle. And Bolin now 6 seconds back. He's lost a lot of time already. Have you been able to try and get him back into the session?
Yeah, he's just rejoined the session. I think, luckily for him, I don't think this will actually affect his finishing position.
If it does, it's by 1 place. But he was a lot quicker than Stinson anyway, so he might be able to extend the gap a little bit and maybe build a buffer of 6 seconds. With 2 laps to go now, I think you're right. If Fruitful can get past and not play the team game, well, that's the fastest lap I don't think he's going to stand, to be honest, from Bolin. But
no, I don't either.
yeah, it's all gone a bit Pete Tong, but he is definitely not in 14th. He is up into P4. We're going to go on board with Fruitful, because whilst the times are being messed up a little bit, I can see with my own eyes that he's very close indeed to the back of Vaporizer. Vaporizer, who I think is not accidentally getting his DRS, is he? For want of a better phrase.
Yeah, I think. Yeah, Montana and Vaporizer, as usual, just playing that team game and bringing home the points for Mercedes.
I think it's going to be maximum points, isn't it? I wasn't aware of who had set the fastest lap time. I think it still is the Ferrari, isn't it? It's the Ferrari of
Lopez, yeah.
Who has not finished the race. So, I'd love to be able to tell you how many people we've got viewing, but I can see there's over 400 comments, so comments are appreciated.
I can tell you, we have 49 people.
49 people, 49 heroes watching the race and being treated to an intriguing, if not frenetic, Russian Grand Prix. Going into the final lap now, and I think Fruitful fancies a run at Vaporizer. He's got the same amount of ERS, but he will have DRS and a slipstream, a double toe. They're both going to match the ERS. 7/10 of a second for Vaporizer, which means he has got a safety net of DRS behind. And yeah, I don't think the Williams is going to get anywhere near. He's falling rather quite far back, to be honest, isn't he? Fruitful.
Yeah, I think Fruitful probably understands that he might struggle to get the win and that he'll get the P2 on penalties, so it would be pretty reckless just to go in for the P2 on track.
Up another 3-second penalty to rather illustrate that. So Fruitful's effectively got 6 seconds on his opponent before they even start, hasn't he?
He has indeed, yeah. And I think, looking at TAS, the fastest lap will actually be Reese's, I think, for the 32th lap, which beats Lopez's by 3/10. Obviously he won't get credited with that point as he is in P14.
Yes, no, he's not going to score anything for it, and I think it's being brutally honest, a mess of his own making. Going into the final sector now, and it looks like Montana is going to hold on. He only has to negotiate this collection of 90-degree left and right-handers. One left-hander, there you go, and then 3 right-handers to bring it back around. He's got a queue of 2 cars behind him. I don't think that's going to matter too much. Presses the overtake button now. Fruitful goes for a look on the inside, but I don't think it's going to work for Vaporizer. But Montana comes through and takes the win in Russia. Fruitful does take second place, 5.5 seconds on penalties ahead of Vaporizer, who's going to manage third place. Bolin is going to cross the line in 4th. Despite the fact it tells us he's a lap down, he is not. Stinson is going to cross the line in 5th ahead of Rage Snipes behind Calzo. Calzo 6th. Rage Snipes takes 4th. Well, 4th according to this. 5th place in the world of actual Formula 1. Rowan in the Renault is going to hold on to a points paying position. He's going to take 9th, but he's going to fall behind Matrix. So that will put him back to 10th. It will say KD is 10th, but he's not. I promise you, it will be 11th place, as Bolin will get credited with P4 once the stewards sort that out. Thomas crosses the line, and it's 12th place ahead of Jacob. Risa, who rather had a torrid end to the session, will cross the line in 14th. So, Joel, your thoughts on that race? Certainly not classic, but an intriguing race nonetheless. Certainly one to keep you occupied and keep you watching.
Yeah, I don't really think anyone ever comes to Russia expecting a classic, but I think the EU1 boys definitely put on a good show, and another dominant display by Montana, and another good point scoring position for Fruitful. Just keeps the championship alive, which is what we want to see at the end of the day.
I think the race was won and lost when Montana decided to stretch that medium run, stretch the medium stint, pit early, and really set about Vaporizer. Vaporizer then picked up a couple of penalties following that. But I think, personally, the race was won in that move and in that moment. So if we can bring the 3 drivers, if Vaporizer does turn up, bring 3 drivers into the party, let's get their thoughts. Fruitful's always a man to talk. And let's see what he's got to say. So let me just see, because it's changing it around again because of the glitches. So let's see what the final standings looks like. As we load up now to the podium celebrations. I wonder who this is going to put on now with the glitches. Well, it thinks that Bolin was lapped, and then it thinks he won the race. I can assure you that's not the case, despite what they say, as Bolin did cross the line in 4th place. So we look now, and there's the second place man, Fruitful, now into the party. Just waiting for a couple, one or both of the Mercedes drivers. The format will be myself asking a couple of questions, and if Joel does want to ask a couple of questions, the floor is his. So, just to go through the race results, it's not Bolin that won the race, it's Montana ahead of Fruitful, Vaporizer in third place in the second Mercedes. Bolin took fourth place for McLaren ahead of Rage Knight on his debut in EU1 and reserving from EU3. Big Slater was sixth in the Haas ahead of Young Stinson and Calzo. Matrix and Rowan made up the top 10 ahead of the US reserve of KD 1997 in the Racing Point, a minute off the lead. Thomas in the Williams was there only because of collision damage. He was in the top 6 ahead of Jacob, another man to suffer collision damage, and Risa, who might have some explaining to do for Alfa Romeo, in 14th. The retirements: Conzo 1993, Lopez Matthias Fly, Warner in the Alpha Tauri, all failed to see the checkered flag. So let's just make sure we've got a couple in our runners and riders in our party to try and find out what the drivers all made of that. Let me just see who I've got, and it looks like for once I have all three. So we're going to start with the winner, and that is NSX Montana. Joel and I remarked that the victory was secured when you made that early pit stop. How did you expect it to play out? And talk us through the race from your perspective, please.
Yeah, it was a really tactical race, I think. The start was about surviving the path starts from behind, so just settle in a rhythm. Surprisingly, with great pace, Vaporizer got out the DRS. So I just saved my battery, go past Bowling quite easily. And then I thought I'd go longer than Vincent, Vaporizer, but he then decided to go longer so I could undercut him. And then it was just getting no warnings and holding position with him to the end of the race pretty much, so just a very tactical one.
Were you quite happy then to see that your Mercedes teammate did not pit? You know, were you hoping for that not to happen? Were you in the party together? Did you know what was going to happen, or
we're always in the party together. We're always and talking every lap. What we do. He said he wants to go one longer, so I thought I can't go too longer, so I go this lap. And he even said go for undercut. So we have a nice communication. We just work together, and that's what brings us to the top, I guess.
Okay, and just talk us through that start as well, because Bolin made a really good start. At one point did look like he was going to take the lead. Was it quite crucial for you, and perhaps the Mercedes race, that he only managed to overtake one driver at the start and not both?
I don't think it would have made a difference. I think we both had the pace to get past, or at least battle him. So it was just about surviving the first corner, not dropping too many positions, and not getting a warning, a stupid one in the first lap, and just settle in a rhythm. I don't think it would have made a big difference if he got past both of us.
Okay, Joel, if you've got any questions, you're more than welcome to take the stage, Joel.
No, I don't really have any questions. I think you asked them some good questions personally. So
I'll take the praise and the ego feed, and we'll go straight to second place, Fruitful. Fruitful, another understated race, but second place after staying out of trouble is a result you must be pleased with.
Yeah, in the end, with the result, I'm quite pleased. I felt in the race I just didn't have the pace, not even to battle, but I was lucky that Bolin wasn't too quick either. So I just could follow Bolin for the whole race and stay in the DRS train. But nah, it was just a really boring race for me, and I never could really get into a rhythm. But P2 is the best result I could hope for.
It's the best result you could hope for. You mentioned the DRS train. Just how much of an effect does it have when you've got two DRS zones, two long DRS zones, at opposite ends of the track in terms of keeping the field close together, but also preventing overtaking opportunities if they're all following one driver?
Well, let's say if there wasn't DRS, I would have been 10 to 15 seconds behind them, probably. So DRS saved my ass. I think it's the most important, one of the tracks where DRS is the most important to follow. You have a lot of these tracks like Italy, with the long DRS straights, it's really easy to follow around here.
Okay, and you're saying that it's really easy to follow around here. The turbulence then, it's a lot of 90-degree mid-speed corners. Does that not make much of a difference compared to other circuits?
No, I don't think so. Dirt here isn't really a thing in this game. It's just a little effect when you're downforce. So following is really easy, and with these corners, yeah, it really doesn't make a difference, to be honest.
Okay, well, congratulations on second place, keeping the championship
Thank
fight
you.
alive. We're going to go to our pole man and part-time race leader, and that is Vaporizer. Vaporizer, with hindsight, and hindsight's a wonderful thing in motorsport, would you have pitted earlier and perhaps tried to preserve the status quo?
No, I think the guys on mediums would have fucked us anyway, because we were outside of the 1 second gap, and then the medium runner, I think one let us through, and the other one, he didn't really fight us, but he didn't let us through, and that cost us the 1 second gap. I think that cost the race then.
Okay.
Or like the P2, because with the penalties I could have gotten E1.
So,
And I just had shit in them, so yeah, I think that's how Montana got. I also got Montana on the overtake. So I had a double overtake on Montana in the racing game. So.
You did, yes. No, it made for very good viewing. We'll gloss over the fact that it's post watershed in the UK, so don't worry about that. But just talk about your start, because you had to get your elbows out, didn't you, going into turn 2? And it's probably the worst track to lead into the heavy braking zone, isn't it? Just talk about it from your perspective, please.
Yeah, there's just no room on the outside there or on the inside. Like, if you're the leading car, you can't give space to the other guy, I think. I don't know if I pushed him off or not. Thought I was ahead a bit, so thought it was fine, but I don't know if I really pushed him off, but I don't know how you guys saw it. But
For me, and I'm a McLaren man, so it goes into the category of firm but fair. So I won't be raising any complaints myself.
I think looking at the pace, I was able to get out of DRS, and I think I would have had him still. Also with a 6-second time penalty, would have been. If I was behind him, I would have just been more careful, and then just have a 3-second time penalty and got him anyway. Still finished first, so yeah.
It's an easy.
Time penalty.
Sorry, you
Time
first.
penalty just fucked me in. Like battling Montana isn't really worth it now. Just cost us time, and maybe if you crash or something, throw them overtakers, and then it'd still be a hard time.
So, was it formation flying then? Were there team orders? Well, not team orders, but was it? I mean,
No, not really. It was just like unnecessary to fight him. Like, I wouldn't have been able to pull away by a second. It just wouldn't have made sense to fight Montana. So,
okay. Well, congratulations. Well, congratulations to all three drivers. We're taking a break next week in EU3, but I believe there's a rescheduled Austrian Grand Prix for next season. I made a mistake at the start of the broadcast calling it round 16. It is, of course, round 15 due to that delay in Austria. We'll see you next week, and I'm looking forward to it as well, with myself and possibly Nimmy coming back. But if not, I'm sure Joel or anybody else will be more than happy to step in. Have a great evening, stay safe wherever you are in the world, especially during these challenging times, and take care. We'll see you next week. Thank you very much indeed.